So
Hello, everybody. Welcome to the ASEV Eastern section hang time. It's October 10th, and I appreciate y'all all attending and showing up. We'll hopefully have some people trickle in here as we get started, but I want to go ahead and introduce myself. My name is Nathan Eason. I am the chair-elect for the Eastern section. So we'll have the wonderful privilege of leading this organization next year. And so I also serve as the extension agent in White County, which is the northeast part of Georgia with the University of Georgia. And we predominantly have wine grape country up here in the southern Appalachian Mountains here in the northern part of the state. Few housekeeping rules. If you have questions, please submit them in the Q&A chat box, not the chat box, but the Q&A. If you have information or things that you want to share, you can put them in the chat. I see that Renee, one of our speakers here today, just put some information that she'll share with you in just a minute. If you have questions, we encourage you to use the raise hand function. That should take you to the top of our list and we can unmute you. You can also type your questions in the Q&A, as I mentioned. We want this to be kind of conversational style, but we do have a couple of presentations to kind of get through, but we want to have time for you to ask questions and interact with our speakers. So without further ado, we kind of changed our topic for this month, and we've got a graduate student from the University of Georgia here with us this morning, Mr. Walt Sanders, who's a graduate student at UGA and is going to be presenting to you on some research. And we have Miss Renee Threlfall, who's with the University of Arkansas, and she's going to be our main speaker, talking about some research they're going to be doing that hopefully will be of interest to you. So let's get through some introductions right quick. Walt, if you'll take it, just do an introduction, and then we'll get to Renee and introduce her team.
All right. Well, hello, everyone. My name is Walt Sanders, and I'm a graduate student currently working on my master's in plant pathology at the University of Georgia. And my PIs are Dr. Phil Brannon, who some of you in the Southeast might be familiar with, and Dr. Maren Brewer.
Thank you, Walt. Renee?
Hi, Dr. Renee Threlfall. I'm at the University of Arkansas System Division of Agriculture, and I'm also the director or administrator of the ASEV Eastern section.
Dr. Chi?
Hi, I'm Chi Sang from Cornell University, and I'm a co-PI on that grant that Renee just talked about, and I'll be the lead the genetics team for the project.
Well, I appreciate everybody being here today. We're going to get started, try to keep this at an hour. I'll keep an eye on the questions, but Walt, if you want to go ahead and share your screen and kind of let us know what your kind of research that you've been working on. I think it's very relevant. I've been fortunate enough to be a part of this research here in my county. Have a couple of years worth of data to share with you. So Walt, I'm going to let you take it away.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you, Nathan. So hello, everyone. Once again, my name is Walt Sanders, and I'm under the tutelage of Dr. Phil Brannon and Dr. Maren Brewer. And for the past couple of years, I have been conducting research on powdery mildew of grapes, and particularly looking at sulfur use for powdery mildew control. And today I'm going to share with you some of the research that I've been conducting, particularly looking at phytotoxicity on European wine grapes. So I'm sure most of you are familiar with powdery mildew, but for those of you who aren't, it's a highly aggressive fungal disease that infects all green parts of the vine. It's particularly aggressive to European wine grapes in many operations. There's zero tolerance for this disease because even small amounts on berries can alter the sugar characteristics and can alter the flavors of the wine. And just to show you how bad this can get, these pictures were taken at the Georgia Mountain Research Station up in Blairsville, Georgia, where we probably have, I'd wager, probably some of the highest powdery mildew pressure in the entire United States, because we purposefully managed this vineyard to cause high incidence and severity of phytotoxicity. And that picture on the left was not taken in the spring. That's not the new flushes of growth. that is in August, after powdery mildew has had its way on that Chardonnay right there. And those grapes are about as bad as it can get in terms of powdery mildew. But in terms of diseases to look out for in Georgia, powdery mildew is a top priority, because if it gets out of hand, you really get some really bad damage, especially in this part of the world where we have very hot temperatures, very humid, very high humidity. So in terms of control, the main fungicides we use are systemic formulations like QOIs, DMIs, and SDHIs. But for today, we're going to be talking about the main contact fungicide, that is elemental sulfur. So sulfur is one of the oldest fungicides, as far as we can tell. The first recording of sulfur and its pest-averting properties were first recorded in the Odyssey by Homer, where he talked about brimstone fumigation, which we know now was sulfur. And it's because it has low toxicity and can be applied throughout the season. And that's exactly what we do here in Georgia. Usually, sulfur spraying starts right at bloom and goes all the way until harvest, and then even sometimes after harvest. And we usually apply it at 7 to 14 day intervals, because rain will wash this material off. So constant reapplication is necessary. But it works pretty good in terms of efficacy for controlling powdery mildew. There are a few problems with it, however, but the problem we're going to be talking about today, I won't get into all the problems with sulfur, but today we're going to be talking about phytotoxicity. So what is phytotoxicity exactly? It's defined as any adverse effect on plants caused by a specific substance. So in terms of sulfur, it causes this marginal necrosis on the edges of leaves, and sometimes I've seen it on the inside of leaves as well. And this has anecdotally been reported to happen at high temperatures. So here in Georgia, later in the season, when temperatures get to about 90, upwards of 92, growers will stop applying sulfur because they want to avoid this type of damage. So why am I talking about sulfur phytotoxicity today? I'm talking about it because we have been applying sulfur in a series of research trials looking at surfactants at the Georgia Mountain Experiment Station in Blairsville, Georgia. It's in the northern parts of Georgia. Those are the Appalachian Mountains in the background there. But we've been applying sulfur at very high rates at temperatures that would seemingly cause this phytotoxicity to occur. But for the past few years, we haven't seen any phytotoxicity. So it's raised our eyebrows a bit. And so we've decided to take a closer look at the specifics behind when this phytotoxicity will occur. And just to clarify for the duration of this talk, I'm talking about European wine grapes. I'm talking about Vitis vinifera, your Chardonnays, your Merlots. In terms of hybrids, anything with American lineage, that most likely has the sensitivity to phytotoxicity. We're just looking at European wine grapes, and the research you're seeing is just on European. So we decided to have a simple trial to take a look at the phytotoxicity. So we asked 4 Georgia vineyards across the northern Georgia area if we could use their vines, and they graciously allowed us to. So we made a simple methodology where we will spray vines with the highest legal rate of sulfur. Usually growers here will spray at about 4 pounds per acre in terms of rate. We decided to spray 10 pounds per acre during the hottest days in June, July, and August that we could find. We had 3 treatments. So we had an untreated control, which obviously wasn't sprayed at all. We have a 3 o'clock spray, which 3 o'clock is typically the hottest temperature during the day. And then a 7 o'clock spray, which it's getting later in the day. It's a little cooler. We just wanted to see if there's any differences between those 2 times to potentially say if we saw a phytotoxicity at 3 p.m. that a grower, for practical purposes, could come and spray at a later time during the day to avoid the phytotoxicity. And we looked at 3 varieties. We looked at Chardonnay, Merlot, and Cab Franc. And to actually analyze this and to look at the data, we came back a week after we sprayed. We took 25 leaves and we just looked at the percentage of phytotoxicity on the vine. So all the data I'm going to show you today, it's all out of 100. It's all percent data. And these are the extension agents that helped me do this trial: Clark McAllister, John Scaduto, Nathan Easton, Jacob Williams. I couldn't have done it without their help. So we're going to take a look at some results. So these are the results from 2023. For simplicity's sake, we're just going to be looking at Yonah Mountain Vineyards, which is one of the vineyards that allowed us to use their vines. So what you're looking at are 3 graphs. We have our 3 varieties. We have our Cabernet Franc on the left, and in the middle we have our Merlot, and on the right we have Chardonnay. and there's 3 bars in between them on each of these graphs. The black represents the untreated, the orange is 3 o'clock treatment, and the blue is the 7 o'clock treatment. And once again, these are percentages. So we have incidence and severity, which are both percentages. And you can just see by looking at it, the incidence and severity of, we'll call it necrosis, was very low throughout all of the times we'd sprayed throughout this trial, both in 2023 and 2024. We did not see any differences whatsoever between the untreated and the 2 treatment sprays, which isn't entirely unexpected, right? Because we haven't been seeing it in the sulfur trials that we've conducted in the past. But this is our data for 2023, and this is our data for 2024. You can see there's a slight increase in necrosis on that Merlot for 2024, but the levels are similar between the untreated 3 o'clock and the 7 o'clock, so it's all similar, basically. So just to make it a little more tangible, the results, I have 3 vines here that were all different treatments. This is again at Yona Vineyards. We have our untreated on the left. In the middle, we have our 3 o'clock spray. And then on the right, we have our 7 o'clock spray. And you can see it doesn't look like there's any differences at all. You would look at these and not realize that sulfur was sprayed at 88 degrees Fahrenheit at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, because you don't see any phytotoxicity. Maybe you could see the sulfur residue because it has a white tinge to it. But ultimately, this is what all of the vines throughout our trial look like. So throughout 2022, 2023 and 2024, we sprayed a total of 32 times. We replicated this trial 32 times, and there wasn't a single time within those 23 trials that we saw any sort of phytotoxicity. And so at the end, I was looking at it all and I was confused because I was expecting things to go wrong and for my hypothesis to not be found so favorably in my favor, right? So I decided to take a deeper look. And as it turns out, there are some researchers in Australia that have looked deeper into this phenomenon, and they found that there is a magical set of conditions, them being about 86 degrees Fahrenheit and 75% humidity, that phytotoxicity will actually occur if you spray sulfur. So with that in mind, it's not surprising that we didn't see any phytotoxicity, because if you look at the temperature and the humidity below each of these treatments, you can see the temperature might be there at 3 o'clock, but the humidity isn't at 75%. So one thing to take away from this is that it doesn't matter if the temperature is 100 degrees Fahrenheit. If the humidity is not at the levels to cause the phytotoxicity, you more than likely won't see the phytotoxicity on European varieties. So with this information, we decided to say, hey, what is the likelihood that these conditions will actually occur in the northern Georgia area where we were doing this research? So what we did is we took a look at some of the UGA weather stations that have been collecting weather data since 2003, and we decided to look for these conditions and see how often they occurred. So that's this data here. And what you need to know about this graph is that blue line represents the temperature, and if the blue line crosses the black line, that is representative of conducive conditions to spray sulfur to cause sulfur phytotoxicity. You're gonna get tired of me saying that word, but if you scan that black line and take a look at when the blue line crosses the black line, you'll see it doesn't occur that often. So this is 21 years worth of data. The left side is 2003 and the right is all the way in 2004. And you can see that there's only a few times where the line actually crosses the black line. There's one time in 2005, there's one in 2000, there's a few in 2010, there's a few in 2011. And overall, that accounts for about 11 days. There were about 11 days within a span of 21 years where you would spray sulfur and actually phytotoxicity would happen. So this is in the Dahlonega area where a lot of our vineyard operations are. And then this is in the Blairsville area, which is a little further north. The temperatures are a little cooler. And this is where our research vineyard is. And you can see it's even less common. There's only one part at the very end on the right where phytotoxicity occurred. And that only occurred for about, phytotoxicity conducive conditions actually occurred. But ultimately, it's rare in the area that we're looking at this. So what, in conclusion, what should you take away from this? for my Georgia growers out there, phytotoxicity on European grapes is likely rare due to the rarity of the weather conditions to cause it, but it will vary by climate. You need to be aware that though the conditions are rare, they can happen. It is possible, but ultimately it is not a big risk in the area that we were concerned about it. And with that, I believe that's all I have. I will take any questions if y'all have any questions.
So we do have
clear
one
as mud.
We do have a question, Walt. Question was, what was the temperature difference between 3 p.m. and 7 p.m.? I guess maybe on average. I know when one of the graphs it was 8 degrees cooler, but
yes,
sprayed several times. So did you ever have an average drop in temperature from midday to evening?
I don't have an average for you, but it was usually around 8 degrees. I would say 8 degrees was probably around the average. Sometimes the temperature would only drop, around 5 degrees. It wouldn't really be that significant, but most of the time, I think 8 degrees would be a good average temperature.
Go ahead, and I was going to say, just for our audience as well, we took leaf temperature, surface temperature, as well as ambient temperature as well, and just tried to note that. And Walt is currently working to assemble further details of his data. Another question, Walt, is why didn't you pick first thing in the morning as opposed to the evening? Sometimes we can get some winds in the evening. I know a lot of people do a lot of spraying first thing in the morning. Was that just any particular reason behind that?
No particular reason why we chose the afternoon as opposed to the morning. I know a lot of growers prefer morning application, but we chose 7 o'clock simply for ease of performing the trial, I suppose.
Okay, another question. But go ahead.
I was going to say it would the same logic would apply to early in the morning as later in the evening, right? The temperature and humidity would likely similarly be a lot less conducive at those times.
Okay. Another question is the temperature, the humidity requirements for phytotoxicity for the exact time of application, or is it a certain duration afterwards that it can occur at those conditions?
So that is not entirely well known. But I would say I've seen and that those same researchers that I was talking about in Australia that have taken a look at this, they hypothesized that about 4 hours of time is likely the maximum amount of time that you would have to see those temperatures to cause the phytotoxicity. But I would take that with a grain of salt, but definitely less than 24 hours, right? You're not going to spray it today and then have the temperatures occur tomorrow and cause phytotoxicity. There has to be a period where before the fungicide is dried.
Perfect. Walt, appreciate you presenting today. That was excellent information, something for our producers to consider. Obviously, we have a nationwide audience today.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody's environmental conditions going to be a little bit different, potentially different varieties would react differently. Is there any, I would assume the recommendation is, hey, we attempted to push the thresholds on this. Maybe you should consider it too, and not just take everybody's word for it almost.
I would absolutely say that. So in France and areas where they have very high concentration of production, they'll have a set line. If it gets to this temperature, you do not spray whatsoever. And a lot of the recommendations, the growers themselves just kind of anecdotally know that they can't spray after this point, or they get phyto.
Well, I think it's definitely relative. Go ahead.
I was just going to say I just want to put emphasis on the fact that it will vary by region. This research that I've conducted it's not only useful to growers in northern Georgia, but it's most useful to the growers in northern Georgia, because that's where we actually can confirm the climate conditions, right? It will vary
Well,
by region.
I think the application of the humidity and temperature thresholds are super important to take away. So thank you for
Absolutely.
that, Walt. I know you got to run to teach a class. So we appreciate your time. And at this point, if you want to stop sharing your screen, we'll transition
Yep.
over to Renee.
All right, absolutely. Yeah, thank you for allowing me to present.
Thank you, sir. Have a good one.
All right. Thanks, Nathan. Can you move Margaret to panelist? I see she's joined us.
I tried to, unless I grabbed the wrong Margaret.
Margaret Worthington. She may have to accept. I don't know how it works on that end. But anyway. Do you want me to just share my screen and get started?
Yes, that'll be fine.
All right. Okay. Go here. Is that all right? Can you see everything okay? So, oh, here, Margaret's going to join us. Excellent. So I wanted to talk a little bit about a new project that was funded.
Hey, real quick, Renee, you do have it on the presenter slide set view. So
Oh.
you're seeing that view.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe display settings at the top would give you a different view.
Let's see.
To the left above your slides.
Thank you. There you go, like that.
Yes, perfect.
Good job. You're getting really good at this, Nathan. All right. So I wanted to talk a little bit about this new project, and I've got a couple of people that I'm going to introduce as we go along with this that are part of the project that could attend today. So the project is, we call it V by M, through the grapevine. But I wanted to start with a bit of a story about how we got to this point. So in 2022, we received a planning grant called Through the Grapevine, Building Research and Extension Potential Between Subgenre Vitis and Muscadine for the U.S. grape industry. And this is our team, myself, Dr. Renee Thrallfall, and then also on here, she has her video off, but Dr. Margaret Worthington, and from the University of Arkansas system. She is our fruit breeder here. And other team members were Mark Hoffman from North Carolina State University, Melinda Newth from North Carolina, and Penny Perkins VC from North Carolina, and then Dee Fang from the University of Florida. So the point of this is like the how we got to here took a while, and we really worked hard for a year and a half to assemble a team, get together all of the stakeholders that are a part of this project to develop the project. And so the project that was funded, luckily for us this year, we submitted a pre-proposal last December, and were asked to move forward with a full submission in April, which we did. And then in June we received word that we did receive the funding. And we were one of 17 proposals that were funded for this project. And we were ranked #1, which was, I thought, very, very, very exciting. So the project is called Through the Grapevine, Developing Vitis by Muscadine Wide Hybrids for Enhanced Disease Resistance and Quality. It's a 31-person project team from 12 academic and research affiliated industries. We have Clemson University, Cornell, Florida A&M, Mississippi State, North Carolina State, Texas A&M, University of Kentucky, UC Davis, University of Florida, University of Georgia, of course, Arkansas is leading, and then USDA ARS. And so the project started last month in September of 2024, and will end in August of 2028. But what we really wanted to talk to when we got together the team, what we were thinking is, why is this important, and showing the need for what we were trying to do. So we all know that the grape industry is a booming business, and it's one of the highest valued crops in the United States. But there are, as we just saw from the previous speaker, there is a lot of disease issues associated with grape production, and particularly in the realm of Vitis vinifera. But Muscadine, which is native to the southeastern United States, have many disease-resistant qualities that are of value could be of value to the vinifera. So we've never really had formal collaborations between Vitus, Vitus and Muscadinia communities. And so this bridges that gap, this project. So we're very stakeholder driven, and with the overall reaching goal of enhancing disease resistant and also fruit quality attributes. I see Margaret's on. She would do best to explain this slide, but she's being really quiet, so I don't know if she's busy or not. There she is.
Well, I'm here. I can, if you want me to say something.
I couldn't see you, but I like people to see your face. So, but this is kind of the gist of what we're trying to do. I don't know, Margaret, if you would like to explain a little bit about the potential between the crossing and why it's difficult to cross these two genre.
Sure. Can you see me?
Yes.
Okay, and you can hear me. Cool. I'm joining from my phone. So.
Oh, that's why. Okay.
Yeah, muscadines and Vitus grapes are sometimes considered two different subgenera, or sometimes they're even considered two separate genera entirely. Muscadines are, of course, related to grapes. They're in the same family, but they have a different chromosome number. So chromosome 7 on bunch grapes behaves as two independent chromosomes on muscadines. It's a little bit like crossing a horse and a donkey to get a mule. The problem is that most of the progeny are mostly or at least partially sterile, but we are able to recover some progeny with restored fertility. One other point I'll make about there, it's not just the difference in chromosome number. They're pretty distantly related from each other in general, and that poses some problems for making the wide crosses. So since it's complicated and hard to do it, why do it? And I think that the reason is that they have so many fine complementary traits. Not only the disease resistance that Renee mentioned, that we can hopefully bring more loci like Run 1 that people are using for powdery mildew now, but additional loci for other diseases like downy mildew, black rot, grapevine leaf roll associated virus, hopefully, and other traits of interest into Vitis vinifera. But we hope we can also bring quality traits. We have people who are working on developing seedless muscadines, of course. There are seedless muscadines now on the market with Sinispermacarpi introgressed from Vitis vinifera. Other quality traits like thinner skins, more crispy flesh, various and sundry different kind of traits that would ease for production and for consumer quality that are complementary between these two species. And that's why we want to make these wide muscadine Vitis hybrids, back crossing to Vitis vinifera for disease resistance and back crossing to muscadines for the hybrid. So I think it's a fun aspect of what we're doing.
That's good. Good summary. I like it when she uses the horse and donkey comparison. I think a lot of people understand that. To further explain something too, like in my image here, you have vinifera on one side and you have muscadinia on other. But when you cross them, you don't get something in the middle. Like you're not getting something with both in the center between those two. You're going to get muscadine type hybrids and Vitus type hybrids. And we are partnering a lot with VitusGen, who is actually already working on a lot of the Vitus type hybrids. And so our focus will primarily be on the muscadine type hybrid side of this project. And so we have the team, and we have really set up the team into 6 objectives or 6 areas, starting with genetics. I would like to introduce Chi Sun. He is the co-director of the Computational Biology Service Unit at Cornell University. And Chi, do you want to kind of just briefly, like in a few words, explain your role here in the project as leading for genetics?
Yeah, so Margaret just talked about the difficulty of doing crossing and doing between the vinifera and the muscadine. So we would like to apply DNA markers. So for example, you want to get like seedless grapes from the muscadine side, and we want to introduce disease resistance into the vinifera. So we would like to using DNA markers to help us to do the early screening, like in the seedling stage. If you DNA markers, you don't need to if we have good DNA markers, so we can just pre-filter the seedling before the breeder had to grow into the field. So that will
Yeah.
save the cost a lot
Yeah.
and it'll be more accurate.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
so, to kind of explain that a little more, when you cross
Yeah.
two things, you may have
Yeah.
100 seedlings.
Yeah.
And with grapes, you're not seeing fruit for 3 years. So we're really waiting a long time to figure out, hey, what is the potential for those plants? Where if we have some markers or DNA markers, we can kind of decide which plants we don't need to focus on anymore because maybe
Yeah.
they don't have the markers that we're
Yeah.
looking for.
So market cannot tell us everything, but like taste, we cannot do that anymore. We couldn't do
No.
that. But some
Disease.
obvious trait like the powder
Seedless.
resistance seedless. So we can predict pretty well from seedling. So
Yeah.
that's what we like to do.
And so then Margaret will be leading the breeding team, and then who's our fruit breeder here you just met, and Lance Cladle Davison from USDA will be leading the pathology. There's a pathology team, and so really genetics, breeding, and pathology teams work really closely together. Then other than that, I'll be leading the quality team, and we're going to be focusing on looking at quality attributes in Muscadine that we can identify markers for to go into the vinifera, and what do consumers in the United States think about these quality attributes. So we have lots of opportunities for that and partnerships with stakeholders in the quality element of it. And then Melinda Newth from North Carolina State has a team working on the marketing element. And Mark Hoffman, also from North Carolina State, is working on the production element. So we have all of these things, and graphically, you can see here this crazy graph, but USDA likes to show like how are we all working together. But we have these six objectives. We're working together. Some like breeding and genetics and pathology work a lot together, but we also cross into the other areas in production, quality, and marketing. So we're really looking at, improving the genotyping, disease-resistant alleles, what are the consumer value attributes, finding these diagnostic markers that Chi talked about, the disease-resistant grapevines. What are some of the marketing strategies we can use for the new Muscadine type hybrids that are maybe coming out of this program? What are these improved grape attributes? And then also, we have mentoring and research, but we have a community engagement. We're working with our stakeholders, our community, our growers, our consumers. So it goes all the way from growing the grapes, who's growing them, to also who may be consuming the products. So that's what's really interesting. But these are just some of the expected outcomes that we have. We do think we're going to have really enhance the development of the ability to breed the Vitis by Muscadinia and create hybrids, combining disease resistant and excellent and the fruit quality, but strategies for communicating to growers about the new potential for these products and also the consumers that may be purchasing the products. We're going to do computer vision phenotypic analysis to enable the selection of the seedlings. And then looking at the production side, really working on recommendations for growers in our grower communities. But in the end, we also want to have some reduced pesticide use and increasing this economic sustainability of grape growers in the United States. And that's really just kind of a brief introduction to the project. But we have three of us, the six of us on the team here today, and we would love to answer some of your questions if you have any.
Well, I thought we had a question up. Maybe it got changed.
I think there's one that says, "Are you aware of Dustin's Dream and Southern Home hybrids? Will these be used or compared in your project?" I'm not familiar with Dustin's Dream. I am familiar with Southern Home. And so one of the things and Margaret can respond to this, but a lot of these efforts are ongoing. So some of the initial evaluations are going to include things that already exist. Margaret, do you want to give more information?
Southern Home in our breeding program a lot. I mean, I think Southern Home is probably 93 or 94% muscadine by pedigree, and it has just a little chunk of chromosome 1 that has an interesting leaf shape associated with it. But we have definitely been using this. And Dunstan's Dream, I'm not familiar with. We use a lot of Dunstan hybrids. DRX 6040 in particular has been in the pedigree. A lot of wide hybrids on the Vitus side and the Muscadine side that people have developed over the years. You know, there's a really interesting 100-year history of people kind of striving to make these wide hybrids with varying degrees of success. And we hope to kind of build upon what people have done in the past and take all of these tools and resources that have been developed and use these kind of molecular strategies that we now have to kind of speed up the process and kind of a more combined holistic effort between people working on the Muscadine and the Vitus side. Then I saw a question about focus on bunch grapes or sorry, table grapes or wine grapes. And I think that the answer is both, definitely. We're interested in both sides for sure.
There are some elements right now that will be in our early stages will be a table grape focus because it's what's available is already here. So on our production and growing side, some of those elements really are around the table grape production. But I feel like I agree with Margaret that it'll be both elements of table and wine grapes. Oh, well, juice as well.
So I have a question. Is this, because of muscadines being primarily in the South, is this still going to be considered a Southern style grape, even when in its completion, or will it have some hardiness components to it as well with the vinifera?
Good question. Margaret?
I can answer that a little bit. We have grown at our research site in Clarksville, Arkansas. I think we're kind of at the northern edge of where someone can commercially reliably produce muscadine grapes, and we get cold damage pretty frequently. I haven't seen any of the wide hybrids yet that I think have better cold hardiness than just muscadine. So this is not to be said that like we couldn't develop one that had better hardiness, and I hope that we can. I think the muscadine type hybrids, certainly a goal is eventually to develop things that are more hardy. Hardiness was not a focus on this grant, just we had to kind of narrow our focus in some way. But, you know, hopefully if we generate some new variability and some new hybrids, that could be something that for the next iteration, maybe we consider.
So all these will be ready in about 2 years, right?
I mean, I would say there are seedless muscadine hybrids on the market. Jeff Bloodworth and the Gardens Alive program, they have like Oh My hybrid now that's developed already.
I want to give an example
but
here.
It takes a long time. It takes 10
Yeah.
years from making a cross to releasing a variety on average, you know, for grapes. And I think that with this influx of money from the USDA, I think it's a rising tide, and I think pure muscadine research will benefit from this kind of influx of resources and attention to muscadine grapes through this project as well.
And so the way you know, we like to explain it, our project a little bit is to think about table grapes because it's kind of an easier product for consumers to understand. But you know, you have products on the market. If you think about the grape market, going to the grocery store 10 years ago, you had a choice between a green seedless grape or a seeded grape. You had green or red, or seeded or not seeded. Those are your the 4 choices you had. So now you go into the market and you see flavor choices. So if you've heard of cotton candy grapes, so the genetic father for cotton candy is from the U of A material. So you're seeing grapes being sold based on a marketing element. So witch's fingers, cotton candy, red globe. And so when we think about these new hybrids that are coming out, you have to think about new fruit products that you would see in the market. Then I like to explain it like more like on the table grape side because it's a little easier to understand that way.
So actually there's one gene, like we call it, so Margaret can explain more about like a run1 gene, why they're using the table, why this hybrid breeding program is coming from muscadine. So we actually also start working on trying to improve the markers that breeder can use for the run1 gene prediction. So I guess this can be pretty much very quickly, we can be applied to US hybrid grape breeding programs.
Yeah, and so like, you know,
Yeah.
our wine grapes that we released out of the University of Arkansas were 25 years from the cross to the release. Now that's a wine grape using traditional breeding, It took a long time. That's a long time. But the whole point of the marker assisted is to cut that time of waiting and figuring out what attributes the plants have, and if you want to move forward with them.
So
I
we
think
do
we got, go ahead.
a few comments. Just I have seedlings in Costa Rica. This is from Jesse Blinn, and from Muscadine and the Southern Home. Based on the stem color, they have seemed to be a mix of black and bronze. Is that normal?
I can answer that. Bronze is recessive to black in muscadine grapes. It's controlled by a single gene. And so if you had open pollinated seed from a black, I think it would be not surprising that you would see some bronze seedlings segregating in there.
Good to know. This is a great topic. I don't have a ton of questions for y'all because I'm learning just the same. I think it's exciting. One time I heard the conversation of, U.S. wine market, grape market, industry is wide open, where other countries kind of have set what they're going to grow, and what they're going to continue to grow and what to be known for. We have so many states, so many climates that gives us the versatility to have such a diverse market. And with the breeding programs that we have at U of A and Minnesota and other places, I just think it's great. Any comment to the point of just an emerging industry? We've kind of already talked about it.
Yeah, I mean, I really think that's the whole point of the grant. This is an emerging and changing industry, and as we see more impacts of environmental impacts that are changing, even including climate in the United States, we see opportunity here for products from this to be able to assist growers to continue to be a successful grape and wine industry in the United States.
Yeah, I'll comment too that I just am super passionate about muscadine grapes. They've always been my favorite fruit since I was a little girl. And, we have a focus on the processing and on the fresh market side, but for the life of me, I can't understand why we don't see muscadine grapes on the supermarket shelf as a fresh grape 12 months of the year. And, I really hope that we can develop some hybrids that have the flavor and the characteristics that people really love about muscadine grapes, with the texture and seedlessness to make it appealing to a broader audience. I think it's an exciting time to be working on muscadines, and they're a wonderful product that deserves to grow.
Well, I'll be the devil's advocate here. What do you say to all the naysayers out there who are kind of the traditionalists and who aren't big fruit wine, kind of blenders? And I know that even on the eastern coast, we've had some wineries be very successful, and we had that as a discussion at one of our past hang time sessions about blending fruit wines and stuff. But somebody would consider muscadine just being another fruit. What do you say to those naysayers of, hey, this is different and it's gonna be different?
Well, I think that's the whole point of our marketing. Our marketing plan is like we have to discover also what people like and don't like about those unique muscadine flavors, and so our marketing plan is going to address that. I compare it to like cilantro lovers and haters. So you have these people that like really love cilantro and those people that really don't, and I think we see that a lot in muscadine. We just have some people that do not care for that flavor. So we need to find and identify, and that's part of what we're doing on the quality and the marketing and the production side, figuring out what the consumers do and do not like about muscadine and where those markers are for those quality attributes. I don't know. I hope that answered your question.
No, it did. I was just giving
Yeah,
it.
well, you can't make everyone happy. I don't strive to do that. Like, because if you have that philosophy, you're going to be all sad and sorry all the time. Because I think that there's some successful products that are going to come out of this project.
Well, if you can make everybody happy, I guess you need to be our next president candidate.
Oh gosh, don't go there.
I just want to thank you all for coming and spending time today. And this is an excellent project. One last question. How do folks keep up with your progress? Is there going to be any kind of reports? Y'all just hope to continue to share the research as it progresses through ASEV Eastern Section and national meetings? Or-
Yes. Yeah, so we have, we're gonna have a website. We're gonna have annual meetings. And we're also gonna have some quarterly meetings as well. And then we're going to be promoting and doing some of the marketing elements, a marketing discovery at different conferences, including ASEV and ASEV Eastern Section, and also even at the farmers market level. So there are some levels of discovery that we're going to be doing all over the United States.
Yeah, and I think those of you who are, in the southern region, look out for, we've also got a lot of field trials going in. We don't have we're not using the field trials in the northern region. Kind of those are being handled by VitusGen for the material that would be more cold hardy. But across the southern region, we're going to be putting in some variety trials and hopefully hosting field days with some funding from this project as well.
Well, that's perfect. I guess we'll wrap up with that, and I guess if it's okay, if people wanted to reach out to you and have more questions, they could. Obviously, this recording will be shared on our ASEV Eastern Section YouTube channel. I'll get it out in a second. So that's where all these recordings go. So please, if this is of interest topic, please share this with your industries and your states. I'm not sure if the survey function still is operating on our hang time sessions, but if you close out on this and there is an opportunity to answer a few questions, if you would do that for us, that helps with our feedback on future topics and how you felt this one went. Dr. Chi, Margaret, Renee, thank you so much for joining us. Until next time, y'all enjoy the fall. The cooler weather is coming. Hopefully everybody's staying busy in the wineries, and we'll catch you next time.
Thanks, Nathan. Bye, everyone.